Without flint tools, none of us would be here right now. All of our ancestors started off with early hand axe and pebble tools to break into the marrow of bones. Hello everyone, my name is Steven Saffold and I'm a coastal Chumash flint knapper and artist. I have been flint knapping since 2004, so just about 20 years now. This is a flint knife and it's glued into a wood handle with a mixture of pine resin and asphaltum, and I've used this to fillet fish and gather arrow shafts with. You all know about arrowheads and bows and arrows, but this is what predates the bow and arrow. This is what a lot of arrowheads that are found are used for, because this was used for hunting megafauna. So you would have this, which is the atlatl, which is an extension of the arm, and it would hook into the base of this dart and be used to throw at big game, megafauna, stuff like that. This one's a Clovis point that I have on here out of obsidian. This is Franciscan chert. It comes from Santa Ynez, and the formation goes all the way up to Oregon. So you'll see points and arrowheads and artifacts from here all the way up to Oregon, just based on where the outcroppings are. So here's a little piece of that. That's brown Franciscan chert from Santa Ynez. And then another source that we gather from is Monterey chert. And this stuff this is one that I made out of material that came from Vandenberg. It comes from the coast. It's made from, or composed of oil, tar and asphaltum. So it'll smell like that when you're working it. So, and then you can see chalk layers. It's like little bits of chalk in there. That's because it forms in layers along the beach. And then sometimes you'll find just little pieces, in a little piece of chert sandwiched in between chalk layers like that, which is what we usually make those points from. In order to turn this flake into an arrowhead, what we have to do is we have to reduce it. So I'll demonstrate how I would go about taking a flake off in the first place. I have a big chunk of obsidian right here. And what I want to use is a hammer stone, something big, like either of these, probably something like this to break this up. And then I definitely want to wear my glove. As you can see, I put on my safety glasses, because even just with pressure flaking, you can probably get a shard in your eye. It's very fragile, and that's why they call it volcanic glass, but it's razor sharp at the same time. So if I wanted to break off a flake right here, I have this ridge that I can follow. One thing to remember is ridges are what you want to hit in order to get a flake off, or even small flakes from big ones. This one was a flake that someone had knocked off there. So I could set up a platform right here where this ridge is, or where this ridge is. So I think I'm gonna start right here, because it's at the corner right there, and that way I can get a good round section that I can start breaking flakes off of from. So I'm gonna bring it down like this, straight down, and I'm aiming a little bit above it. And this is what we call hard hammer percussion. So I'm gonna do that right now. And see, we busted off a pretty good sized flake. This came off the corner right there. And that is razor sharp too, so I'm not running my fingers along the edge or anything. So that's a good little flake to start with. And then what I want to do is kind of address the edge a little bit here, and this is what we call a braiding, and it comes more in handy when you're working on a piece and you're trying to thin it down, because you want to rough that edge up. It's counterintuitive because you want it to be sharp, but at the same time, the only way we're going to turn something like this into an arrowhead is if we rough up the edges. Since it's thick right in here and I still have this ridge I can follow, I'm striking from the top right here, and I have an invisible center line in mind. So I have like imagine an invisible line right here, and I only want to strike below there. So I don't want to strike in here at all where it's flat. I want to look and find an angle to hit at. So I got a good angle right there. I'm just gonna, and I'll give it a good little whack right here. Well, that one kind of shattered on me. Try that again. So see how I ran that, and that just went down there. That's because it followed that ridge. Yeah, it followed that, and that reduced it heavily right there too. So I took that chunk off just with that one hit of material to take off, because I don't want to flake into anywhere that doesn't, I mean, this one's pretty thick, so I have plenty of spots to hit. But if you're taking flakes, you want to look where your flake is going to travel. That's why it's important to have your ridges. Like this one had a ridge right there. I was able to just take that right off. But it's diving in a little bit right there because it's more convex right here, or I have more thickness right there, and I have less of it right there where it gets pretty flat. So that's why I kind of spooned in like that. So I'll take that right now. And then that was just a clean break right there. See how it just comes right off? Because I knew where that flake was gonna come off. And that's what flint knapping is too, is that if you do it enough, you'll notice that the rock breaks predictably. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I just make sure that I do it outside. You can wear a mask too if you want, but in small set, it won't really affect you as much as if you're doing it inside. But see, this is what I'm working with now out of that thick piece I got. This is what we call a biface, and we're getting it close to pressure flaking. So this is that first piece I broke off of that chunk, and I've just been working it down. And I'm looking at my thick spots, and I'm keeping my edge in mind also, like where I want my edge. I still have a thick spot up here, so I'm gonna move my edge that way by taking little flakes, and then I can turn it and then take flakes like that. So that's that same one I've been working on, almost there. But it basically goes from breaking it off, we call it a spall. And then when you have flakes being run on both sides, that's when you call it a biface. So in a lot of archaeological sites, you'll find like pieces like this. Sometimes they'll be all together because they were breaking up a bunch of bifaces at once to take to be traded or to use them for another time. It's about hand-eye coordination. So I'm lining up my platform. I know where I want to hit. I have this spot right here, which has a little bit of thickness in there. I'm putting my finger below it, and I'm just gonna give it that little strike on the edge. And that's how I'm thinning that down. So this piece is just about there. And I'm just taking little tiny flakes. And then I'll turn it over, take a flake. I don't want to make it pointy since I'm still early on. And that's how you can bust the tip off. I want to keep it like a round, sort of flat bifaced kind of thing. And then once I do the finish work, that's when I want to start figuring out how I'm going to even it out and get it symmetrical. So this piece is basically a biface. All it needs is some finishing pressure work. This is how I learned, and this is where a lot of people should start, is just by taking small flakes and then just pressure flaking them. So I'm gonna get a good little flake here. This one's. So what I would do first is I like to rough up the edge, and like sometimes the pieces are gonna, like little bits of the edge will come off, but you just want to keep going until you can kind of get that shape of the arrowhead that you want. But see how I'm not hitting the rock anymore, and see how that part snapped off? So that part was gonna snap anyways. So I'm just pressing along the edge using a deer antler here, and I'm just chipping the edge away. And I'm turning it into the little arrowhead that I want it to be. This is a skill that doesn't come overnight. This takes a lot of practice and a lot of trial and error. I've broken plenty of arrowheads and still do, but just not as many as I used to. So I see how I just made that little quick arrowhead right there. That's kind of what we're going to be focusing on today. When I first started, I found some rocks in the neighbor's yard. It was gravel, but it was fused shale, which is a source that we traditionally used to use, but now it's used for landscape